I can't even get up anymore. And it scares me because I want to get up. I want to get up so bad.
James King from My 600 Pounds Life is one of the most unforgettable cast members ever. We're talking a secret affair with the neighbor that led to 2 kids, a partner who kept feeding him mountains of food, and believe it or not, pulling his own daughter out of school just to care for him. His story has everything: scandal, heartbreak, and shocking moments. From explosive food fights to tense hospital showdowns, the big question is, was James a victim of circumstance or the architect of his own downfall? And how many calories was he eating in just one episode? From hungry child to a life built on food. James's story began in a small, tired-looking house that never really felt like a home. The walls were thin, the paint was chipped, and the air always seemed heavy with tension. His earliest memories weren't of bedtime stories or warm family dinners. Instead, they were filled with the sound of bottles clinking, the sharp smell of alcohol, and the sight of his mother stumbling through the front door long after the sun had set. She didn't come home every night, and when she did, she was often too drunk to notice if her little boy had eaten that day. Meals were never guaranteed. Sometimes there was a plate of cold leftovers. Other times, nothing at all. James quickly learned that food wasn't just about filling his stomach. It was about filling the emptiness around him. When he managed to get his hands on something to eat, whether it was a sandwich, a bag of chips, or even a spoonful of peanut butter, it felt like a small piece of control in a world that was completely unpredictable. But how does a child grow when their comfort comes not from people, but from the next bite of food? And what happens when that comfort becomes the only thing they can truly count on? As a child, he discovered that eating gave him a sense of comfort no person could provide. It was warm, it was dependable, and it didn't walk away. Over time, that comfort became a shield, protecting him from loneliness, fear, and the chaos of his home life. But it also planted the seed for a relationship with food that would shape the rest of his life. A relationship built not just on hunger, but on escape. By the time James turned 18, that seed had grown into something much bigger. He weighed well over 400 pounds. Moving around was already difficult, but he had stopped noticing the stares from strangers or the whispered comments in public. His size had become a part of him, not something to fight, but something to live with. It was around this time that James met Lisa. She lived just a few houses down, a neighbor with her own struggles hidden behind closed doors. Lisa was stuck in an abusive marriage, and James quickly became someone she could talk to, someone who made her feel safe, at least compared to the man she lived with. That connection grew into something deeper. Before long, they were having an affair, one that would change both of their lives forever. Lisa eventually had 2 children by James, though her husband believed they were his. It was a twisted arrangement, but one that James never questioned. Lisa never criticized his weight. She never told him to change. Instead, she accepted him exactly as he was, even when his size made life harder. That acceptance became addictive. For James, it was proof that he didn't need to lose weight to be loved. Why would he put himself through the pain of change when the person he cared for most didn't demand it? But how does a boy who just wants to feel safe grow into a man who can barely move? And when comfort becomes your only constant, is there ever a way back? Trapped in bed and pulling his family in with him. By the time James's weight became too much for his legs to carry, the world outside his bedroom had faded into something distant, almost imaginary. His days began and ended in the same place, the bed. He no longer dressed himself, no longer walked to the kitchen, no longer stepped outside to feel the sun on his face. Every need, from the smallest sip of water to the largest plate of food, depended on someone else. That someone was almost always Lisa. She brought him breakfast, lunch, and dinner, along with snacks in between. She helped him bathe, cleaned up after him, and made sure his favorite foods were always within reach. She admitted more than once that she was enabling him. But in her mind, caring for James wasn't about pushing him to get better. It was about keeping him comfortable, even if it meant ignoring the slow decline of his health. And then there was Bailey, James, and Lisa's daughter. Bailey should have been spending her days in school, laughing with friends, and thinking about what she wanted to be when she grew up. Instead, the family made a shocking decision. They pulled her out of school to stay home and care for her father full-time. She became his personal caretaker, helping with everything from bringing food to cleaning him after he used the bathroom. But what does it do to a child when their world revolves entirely around keeping a parent alive? And how much of her future was quietly slipping away while the rest of the world kept moving forward? For many viewers, this was the breaking point. The outrage was immediate and loud. People couldn't believe that a child's education and future had been sacrificed just so James could continue a lifestyle that was slowly killing him. To them, it wasn't just unhealthy, it was unfair, cruel even. Inside the house, though, the decision seemed natural. James needed help. Lisa couldn't do it all on her own, and Bailey was willing. But this arrangement created something dangerous, a closed loop of dependency. James's inability to care for himself meant Lisa and Bailey had to devote themselves entirely to him. In turn, their constant care made it easier for James to avoid change, which only deepened his decline. Lisa's role as caretaker gave her a sense of purpose, and James's condition gave her that role. The worse his health became, the more she was needed. And the more she was needed, the less reason there seemed to be for James to take steps toward independence. But when James's health began tipping toward the point of no return, the family faced a choice: keep feeding the cycle, or take one last shot at saving his life. Dr. Now's plan and the brutal reality check. When James's health began spiraling toward a point of no return, the family made a desperate move. They reached out to Dr. Nowzaradan in Houston, the man famous for taking on the most extreme weight loss cases. But joining his program wasn't as simple as just showing up. James's father, already worried and worn down, made a heartbreaking sacrifice. He refinanced his own home to cover the cost of getting his son there. Then came the moving day, and it was unlike anything most people could imagine. A moving van pulled up outside, not to haul furniture, but to transport James. Ratchet straps were brought out, the kind you'd usually see securing heavy equipment. 8 men worked together, grunting and sweating as they maneuvered James from his bedroom into the vehicle. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains. Some shook their heads. Others just stared in disbelief. This wasn't just a move. It was a rescue mission. When they finally reached Houston, Dr. Now wasted no time. His tone was firm, his eyes sharp. He listened to James's explanations for his size, slow metabolism, bad genetics, life stress, but cut through every excuse with the precision of a scalpel. Then he turned to Lisa and called out the truth she rarely admitted out loud. She was enabling him. Her constant feeding, her refusal to push him toward change, wasn't love, it was part of the problem. The plan was strict. James was placed on an 800-calorie diet. No sugary snacks, no greasy takeouts, no late-night indulgences. The goal was to drop enough weight to qualify for surgery. In the hospital, under watch, it worked. Pounds came off. James began to move a little more. Hope flickered in the eyes of everyone watching. But what happens when the structure disappears? What happens when the patient goes back to the very environment that built the problem? The moment James returned home, the cracks began to show. Secret takeout deliveries, hidden food wrappers, promises made to Dr. Now, broken within days. Each follow-up visit revealed the same story. Whatever weight James lost in the hospital, he regained at home. The program felt like a revolving door, in for progress, out for relapse. Viewers watching the episodes felt a mix of emotions: disbelief at the way James sabotaged himself, frustration at Lisa, who seemed to fold every time James asked for food, and sympathy for Bailey, caught in a life she never chose, watching her father's health collapse while her own childhood slipped away. The tension finally reached a breaking point when Adult Protective Services stepped in. It was no longer just a health crisis. It was a safety issue. The state recognized that Lisa's care was putting both James and Bailey in danger. For many, this was the moment the story crossed a line from sad to alarming. And yet the biggest question still hung in the air. With everything at stake, would James finally choose to save himself? Or would the cycle tighten its grip for good? When help turns into harm. As James's health continued its downward spiral, a clearer picture began to form, one that painted Lisa's care in a very different light. For years, she had kept James completely dependent, not just out of love, but because that dependency guaranteed her place in his life and kept the disability checks coming. For some, it looked less like compassion and more like control. Dr. Now, never one to let manipulation slide, decided to test a theory. He separated James from Lisa, hoping that distance might break the pattern. Maybe, without her influence, James would stick to the program and finally take his health seriously. But then the truth came out. Even inside the hospital, Lisa found ways to sneak him food. She would smile and play the role of a supportive partner, only to undermine every ounce of progress the moment Dr. Now turned his back. At this point, the situation was no longer just frustrating. It was life or death. Dr. Now issued his final ultimatum: change now, commit to the plan, or lose all treatment forever. It was the last lifeline, the final chance to pull back from the edge. And yet, James chose Lisa. Why would someone choose the very person enabling their downfall over the chance to survive? Was it love, fear, or had comfort become more important than life itself? Whatever the reason, the decision sealed his fate. On April 3, 2020, James King died from sepsis and other complications. The man who once dreamed of a better life left behind a story defined by mischances and self-destruction. The public reaction was split down the middle. Some mourned the loss, remembering the vulnerable moments when James seemed ready to fight. They saw a man trapped in a toxic cycle he couldn't escape. Others were far less forgiving, bluntly stating that James's stubbornness and refusal to take responsibility was what killed him. In the end, James's story wasn't just about obesity or even about health. It was about choices. Choices to stay the same. Choices to trust the wrong people. Choices that, once made, could never be taken back. And maybe that's the hardest truth for viewers to swallow. So why would anyone choose the hand that's holding them down over the hand that could pull them up? And when the end comes, will people remember the fight or the fall? James's journey is a harsh reminder of what happens when love turns into enabling and when pride wins over change. But what do you think? Was James a victim, or did he seal his own fate? And can love sometimes be the most dangerous thing? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe if you want more shocking, untold stories like this. Thanks for watching.